I was just a lad, nearly 22, neither good nor bad, just a kid like you.
Okay guys, welcome back to another episode of NBD. Today I'm here again with Fiona. Last time we talked about figuring out what the heck we're doing with our lives, but we didn't figure it out, I don't think. So not very successful. And today will also not be very successful because we are talking about failure and most notably the fear of failure. Actually Fiona came to me with this subject. Luckily it's one I'm really familiar with, but I was just wondering what was going through your head and what was going on in your life that made you want to talk about this.
I'm honestly not sure, but recently a light bulb kind of went off, and I was because this is the crazy idea that keeps coming back to me, but I've never thought of myself as a perfectionist because I wasn't perfect. Which I feel is just
I can't relate.
Okay. Well, then you don't need to be on this podcast. But I just never saw myself like that because I was failing all the time. And so, but I guess that just led to me thinking about I have this such big fear of failure and need to be perfect. And I'm not. And I feel it's holding me back in my life.
Okay. So how would you define failure generally?
I feel it's anytime something doesn't go the way I planned for it to go in my head.
Okay. So what about so that's kind of day to day. What about in your life? How would you be okay, I failed at life?
I feel if I didn't know, well, if I failed at life, I feel it's the little things.
Okay.
I generally don't feel I'm failing at life, and more of or if I'm really depressed for a lot of days, then I feel I'm failing at life.
So can you think of an example of something day to day that you are afraid of messing up?
I mean, this example I keep thinking about, I was juicing limes where I work at a smoothie shop, and my boss was I was saying how quick I've gotten at juicing limes, and he was oh, we should have a competition.
He always wants to have everything a competition.
But I was no, it's okay, I won't win, which is stupid. Why would I not want to just have the competition just for fun, even if I know I'm not gonna win?
I'm feel that a lot because I'm a really competitive person, but I'm a terrible person in that when I know I'm not going to win, I'm no, this is stupid. Why are you making this a competition? Even though if I were going to win, it would definitely be a competition.
And it would be so much fun.
So, okay, that's good. The next question I was going to ask you was do you think the thought of failing at something would stop you from even trying it?
Definitely. And I feel that's especially been holding me back in my dance career because I'm a pretty safe dancer. Today I actually got called a polite dancer. Okay. So
that's how I would describe you too, a polite dancer.
But a lot of my teachers have been telling me that I need to stop dancing like that or branch out of my comfort zone.
They can tell that you're just okay.
So I feel it's I'm realizing that my fear of failure is holding me back in my dance life and my personal life. And when something's holding me back, I don't like to just let it go, which I feel we're similar in that way.
Yes, definitely. So you said that you didn't before feel you were a perfectionist and you didn't feel you were afraid of failure because you felt you were always failing. So in your mind, when you imagine yourself, do you see yourself as the underdog in most situations?
Yes. And I feel not almost, I feel average, not even the underdog, but I feel in so much of what I do, I'm just the boring middle. I'm not exceptional and I'm not horrible, but I'm just not noticeable.
Okay, interesting. I understand that. I guess I actually don't because I've never no, hold on. Yeah, the way I'm going to start this is going to sound egotistical, but I've never felt average, and I think that's just because of like different circumstances I've been in life, like just being in like an advanced class like throughout grade school, it makes people, like teachers will make you feel like you're like special, or like obviously like my mom thinks I'm like great, so I always feel like I'm like special, but like, or as a kid I did, but then as I became like a teenager and now an adult, I always feel like I'm supposed to be special, but on the inside, I'm afraid that I'm really not at all, and everyone just thinks I am.
Right.
But so in a way, I do kind of feel like the underdog. When I did dance and acting and stuff, I always felt like I had to work way harder than everyone else, because like I was never like a gifted dancer. Like I got better because I worked hard, but I was never like, so I always in my head imagined myself as either the like the best at something or special, or I'm like the underdog and the victim. So maybe I need to work on that. Well, I do, and that's something I've known about myself before, but that's interesting that you have something against being average or living an average life?
I feel like I do, but I shouldn't. Like I just feel like I feel like there's something in me that's like always trying to be better. So like just being average means that I would like stop reaching for something. Like I would settle for being average, which I feel like is not the way that I go about life.
Interesting. I feel like we have very different circumstances and like views on life in this way, because I used to have a friend that like when we had to apply to get into high school, and I wanted to go to like the best one, and she was just going to do the one in her neighborhood, and then like she was just going to go to the university in our state, and I wanted to go somewhere else. And I remember like always being like kind of like pushing her, and she would be really annoyed by that. She'd be like, it's not that serious, like this is just what I'm doing. And I feel like some people are more content with like that, and I think that those people are honestly happier.
Right. I do think that's true, but I don't know if I will like ever be able to be content with being average.
Okay.
Maybe sometimes, maybe through a lot of self-discovery I'll get there.
Do you think that discontent with being average comes from or at least is influenced by pursuing an artistic career?
I think so, because I think it's like, so there's always a clear, this person is like given attention and this person is not. Like I feel like especially in dance, like there's a lot of hierarchy, and so it's like hard to just be in the middle.
It is, because to have a creative career you have to stand out. You can't just be like an okay, especially in ballet. And yeah, I feel like that's really contributed to my worldview, because it's like nothing will ever be enough unless you're better than everyone else. And that also sucks, I feel like, because it makes you feel like you have to have some sort of like holier than thou attitude towards life.
Right.
Okay, I wonder if you experience this too. I go through phases where I'm like, wow, I'm so special. I have these skills, like I can conquer anything in life. I can't wait to go out and conquer all these things and achieve all these things. And then like the next week or whatever, I'll be like, I am nothing. I can't do anything. I'm not capable of anything. Do you have that?
Yes, and like I'm going through that like right now. Especially I feel like that happens a lot with dance, because like I just had like a really great performance and I felt good about my performance, and now I feel like the like high from that is like wearing off, and I'm like starting to be humbled again and starting to think that I'm like a terrible dancer.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know if this could maybe play a role in like if you were a choreographer. I don't know how much it plays in like just the act of dancing, but for me, like I feel like if I make something really good, like if I write a piece and it's really good and even I think it's good and other people think it's good, it lasts like a couple seconds before I'm like, what if I can never do this again? Like what if I never have another good idea ever again?
Yes. And I feel like that's kind of how it was. Like, I had a good performance, but, like, how do I know that I'm going to have, like, the next performance isn't going to be absolutely terrible?
So, do you have any strategies as of now for, like, pulling yourself out of that?
I think, I mean, especially in the dance area, like, my teachers have, like, kind of noticed and, like, been, like, super supportive. And so, like, I feel like I can tell myself that that's what they want, is me to fail, which is, like, knowing, like, the people pleaser in me, like, is willing to, like, combat the fear of failure to give them what they want.
Okay. I've manipulated myself in that way too. I feel like a lot of, like, dealing with self-doubt and really any negative things in life really come with or dealing with things that you don't feel like you have the energy to do at a certain time. You really do have to kind of just manipulate your thoughts based on your own values that you hold. And I can understand how, like, using your people pleasing, I feel like, I don't know, maybe some people would, like, describe that as an unhealthy coping mechanism, but I think it's a blurry line. But I always think, yeah, using what you know about your own psychology to direct you into a place you know you should be, like, I feel like that's something that, like, intelligent people do.
And just, like, changing the narrative. Like, because honestly, sometimes the narrative I'm telling myself is, like, not true at all. And so, like, I need to fix that.
Right. I honestly definitely feel that, like, being afraid to do something will, like, stop me from wanting to do it. What normally happens, though, is there's, like, at a phase where I feel like I am invincible. I have an idea for something I want to do, and then the phase comes later where I don't feel like I can do it. But because I already had the idea when I was feeling good, I'm able to power through. But when I am pursuing something that I'm, like, deathly afraid that I'm going to fail at, which makes me feel like I should just not do it at all. One thing that's been helping me is I think Cody Ko actually said it, but it was in a, like, book, one of those, like, self-help books. But it was, like, I don't know the actual words, but it's basically, like, you should be afraid. And that when you're, like, everyone who's successful was, like, terrified at one point. And so just whenever I'm scared about doing something, I'm always like, I should be scared. It's because I'm taking a big risk. And obviously with a big risk, there's, like, a chance for, like, a terrible sacrifice, but there's also a chance for high reward. But I would say usually in life, it's not that cut and dry. It's usually, like, it's not, like, all the best or all the worst. It's normally a mix of the two.
Right.
I'll just bring up the Bob Dylan quote early because it plays in perfectly right now. It's from a song called Love -0, and it's, she knows no success like failure, and failure is no success at all. I don't know why I said success like that, but that's how it goes in the song. But okay, so first of all, I think Bob Dylan just wrote that line because it sounded good. But how I could interpret it is that there is no success like failure, is just, like, the idea that whenever you fail at something, you either learn how to do it better next time, or you learn how to do something, or you decide that you don't want to pursue that and you learn something else about something else you're going to pursue later on. And then failure is no success at all. Like, yes, you may have, I like that because I think it's a real honest statement about the idea that you do learn things through failure. Even though you did learn something, you still failed.
Right.
And you still have to try again or try something else. But I think that's just a really honest way of saying it.
And just, like, kind of taking away the idea that you shouldn't fail. And that,
Exactly.
like, even though, because I feel like the whole, like, oh, you're going to learn from what you fail is, like, kind of taking away from the fact that it is a failure. But, like, I feel like you have to accept that, yeah, this did fail, but there were positive things about it.
Right. And also something it's the same thing as with happiness. Like, if you think that success is a destination that you can arrive at, you're never going to feel successful, because I mean, you're going to be successful in something, and then you're going to fail at something again after that. Like, just because you reached a success at one point in life doesn't mean you were successful at life and it's over now.
Yes. I've been doing this thing recently where every night I like write down one good thing that happened to me, one bad thing, and then just like one random thing. But I feel like it's been really good to just kind of like remember that, you know, there were many different parts to one day, and that like, but I always try and make sure that like that the bad thing I just leave. Like, sometimes I find myself when I'm writing the bad thing trying to like spin it positive, but I have to just like let it be a bad part of my day, because it happened and it was bad and I didn't enjoy it, but that's just how it is.
I used to do that at church camp. We used to always, at the end of the day, we had to sit in our cabin and go around and say our high and our low. And honestly, it was great, and I loved it because, first of all, I got to talk, and I loved doing that. But everyone loved it. It is great. And it's, you know, everyone says this, but there is no good without bad. And I think it just reminds, and I honestly feel that way too. Like, sometimes I think about times in my life where I was just so down bad or so depressed. But it makes me appreciate, like, a place I am now way more. And honestly, even though I think back on those times and I'm like, wow, like, I really was so miserable, I never, like, I guess regret isn't the right word because I didn't make that choice. But I never am like, oh, I wish that didn't happen, or, oh, I mean, I guess I wish I would enjoy more of my life than I don't enjoy it. But I don't know. I guess I just always feel more grateful for good things when bad things happen. So I think that's a great action item for everyone.
There you go.
Do your highs and lows for every day. So I guess back to what you were saying about people pleasing, or using people pleasing as a method. I feel like imposter syndrome is something that it like ties into being afraid of failure. I don't know, for you, like, you auditioned to be in the dance company that you're in. Like, do you ever feel like, oh, I don't belong here?
Yes, I definitely feel that a lot. And especially like last summer, I wasn't like placed in the highest level during the summer program, but then like halfway through I got moved up to the highest program, and I felt like so much like an imposter. Like, I wasn't originally placed here. Like, I wasn't meant to be here. But so it made it really hard to just like embrace it, because I was like focused on how I didn't deserve to be there.
Right.
So, and I feel like also this year there's like 2 levels in the program I'm in, and I was in the lower program last year, but I like got moved up to the higher program for the next coming
Congratulations. Round of applause for Fiona.
But that almost feels like I don't feel like I deserve it, and they moved like a lot of people up, so it just feels like it was just like this is your second year type of thing. Right.
And I feel like that, so I feel like, first of all, imposter syndrome is something faced by many successful people, especially creative people, because creativity isn't something like tangible or measurable.
Right.
And I think it's normal, and you're going to face it no matter what. And it sucks, and you just need to, like, again, like, manipulate yourself out of it, which we can talk about strategies for that in a second. But I also feel like sometimes failure is good, because when you fail at something multiple times and then you finally succeed at it, I feel like you're gonna have way less imposter syndrome then. Like, I always, and I feel like everyone does this, like, we talked about it, like, daydream about like being discovered, or like,
yes,
getting this job, but it just, if you got it so suddenly, you wouldn't feel like you deserved it. But if you had tried to get it like 3 times and not gotten it, you would probably feel vindicated in getting it. Oh yeah, what I was gonna say is another thing Cody Co said to, he said it, I think, as an inspirational thing, but I found it the opposite of that, which was that, like, if you knew how much potential you had, you would be floored. And for me, potential is not something I want. Like,
right.
because that, if I have potential, if I have greatness inside me and I don't like achieve something, then I feel like a piece of shit. Like if I knew that I was average, then I would feel so much more content with not standing out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I guess, I mean, I guess I'm sure I would feel bad about myself if I knew that I was destined to be average my whole life. But honestly, I really do want to find that. I want to find that content or that nirvana or that peacefulness of just being accepting of a simple life.
No, because I saw a TikTok the other day about like how we have this like standard, or like in society to like only do things we're good at, and like you're like afraid to like dance because like at like a party you don't want to like dance badly, or like just like it holds you back from, but like why does it really matter if you like go dance badly at a party? No one cares.
That's a great point. And what do you think about that in applied to like a career or something? Like you're really bad. Like I don't know. I feel like, because I used to do acting, and when you're a child actor, you have to do musical theater, which means you have to sing. And I am not a singer, unfortunately. And I think I came to a point where I just accepted that I wasn't good at singing. And I feel like that was good for me, because I think I kept letting myself down whenever I failed. But I don't know. I guess I don't know if I'm really asking you a question at all, but I'm just saying, you're right. Like we tend to only do things we're good at in day-to-day life. But I wondered, I guess, your thoughts on pursuing something that you're actively bad at. Like people always say it's never too late, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like for me personally, like I wouldn't pursue something that I'm bad at, which is like my whole debacle with pursuing dance, because when I feel like I'm bad at dance, then I'm like, why am I pursuing this?
I agree. I feel like, I guess what the answer to that would be, like, if you really love it, just keep working hard to like, and the thing is, again, with creative careers, I think that what you like to do and what you're good at often do go hand in hand. And definitely for me, as someone who wants to be the best at everything, I definitely tend to just not like things that I'm bad at, which could be driven by ego, but I also think it does happen to do with passion, because whenever you have passion for something, you're going to work harder towards it.
Right.
And even though creativity isn't necessarily something you can learn, I feel like people who aren't creative don't really pursue creative careers anyway. So if you have that creativity inside you and you pursue a creative career, you might not be amazing at it, but like, because there's that thing that I saw, it was like that creative people, they have their taste and their skill do not line up. Because when someone's interested in painting, they're probably really interested in all the greatest painters, and their taste is in the best paintings. And then when they start painting, they make something that might be really good and inspiring for their level of skill, but it doesn't align with their taste in it. And so I guess when you're just starting out, or even in the middle, or even later on, like it's hard to really feel confident in your work, because you're probably consuming all of the best of whatever your medium is.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also just like we create these such like ideal versions of the like people we think are great in our life, and so I feel like that goes also with like art form, like maybe less so in like painting, but especially in dance. Like if you see like the like principals and soloists in the company and you're like, wow, they're really good, but you have to remember that like they are definitely probably struggling mentally too, and like they probably aren't feeling great about themselves all the time.
And that is the thing about success. I listen to about 1 million podcasts because I spend 8 hours of my day listening to podcasts at work, and I listen to a lot of either comedians or producers or people in the film and television industry, and I'm like, I guess there's like jealousy in me, like, oh, they're successful. But then that's why podcasts are so nice, and why I love podcasts is like they just speak what they're going through, and they are upset too. Like they don't, like, today I was listening to a comedian who, like, 5 years ago he had like he was doing all these shows for like CBS and like True TV, and like he had signed all these contracts, and like he was like, wow, my career's on a great track, and it was on a great track, and like now he's like not doing anything and not getting any work, which first of all is one thing that just sucks about, again, like I said before, in a creative career especially, like you're gonna have times when you're on top of the world, and that may not sustain itself for the rest of your life. But like he was just like talking, which it's kind of it made me feel better about my own situation, just because it's like, okay, even these people that I look up to and find successful feel the same way as I do. But it's also kind of
A little sad.
And it's I always forget this word, discouraging. That it's like, okay, so even if I, like, there's never going to be, again, success isn't a destination. Like, there's never going to be one thing where I'm like, okay, I did it. I'm successful.
Yes. And I feel like I've also been, like, trying to, like, counteract my feelings of, like, success and failure in ballet by, like, creating a solid life outside of ballet, which, like, is helpful. But then I also, like, sometimes I find myself, like, trying too hard not to fail at work, because, like, that's another environment where
So one thing about me is that I started working when I was 15 at a sandwich Jimmy John's. I don't know why. I'm like, and I worked in there at high school like 40 hours a week. Literally towards the end of high school, when I stopped caring as much, I would leave school early to go to work. Like, I spent so much time there, and I think it was because of that fear of failure, because I was always the gifted student in like elementary and middle school, and then I went to a magnet high school and everyone was smart.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, like, I may not be the best in school, but I'm the best at making sandwiches. And I am sorry to hear that you're going down that path too, because let me tell you, it sucks. And I'm still reaping the consequences of that to this day. So definitely wouldn't recommend. But
I think I've like, there was a period of time where I was like working, I think, a little too much, and I'm not working as much now. So that's definitely
good for you.
Helped.
It took me years to. Well, I also, did I tell you I got another job?
No.
Okay, so I got another job because I was like, because that's the thing, when I'm not working, I'm like, I'm a waste of space. And even though the other job I got is just another like service industry job, I'm like, I need to.
Oh no, you did tell me about it.
Okay. Yeah. When I told all my friends, they were like, because I think like the week before I was telling them like, yeah, I only have one job now. Like, I'm so happy. Like, who knew that having all this? And then I was like, I got another job. But I always feel like if I'm not actively contributing to something, that I'm just wasteful. And I honestly think that maybe I wouldn't have such a huge fear of failure if I just accepted that I was worthy, whether or not I was productive or not.
Or also just like trying to validate yourself about, like, because I feel like the more you, like, you're in a workplace where you can get validation and like people saying, oh, you're doing great, or just like feeling like you're doing well, whereas when you're just like in your apartment like reading a book, like you don't necessarily feel
like no one sees it.
Right.
No one. Yeah, no, it is that, and I think it does come from a need for validation. And also I feel like failure is scarier now than ever. First of all, I mean, if you think back to like this is taking it way back, okay? But if we can, this could apply to like caveman times. It could apply to like all the way up to like the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're just like to get enough food on the table,
Right.
and to buy or make clothes, and like to just stay alive. Like there's no like the fear of failure is the fear of dying.
Right.
Really,
The stakes were much higher.
the stakes were higher, but in a way, like, do you ever like romanticize that? Like, I wish that's all I like had to worry about, and I wish like that's all I wanted and needed out of life. But because we have the internet and like all these things to see, we can see all the potential. There goes the potential. It's like we can see all these things that we could do. Like, you know, before, like, it was like even 50 years ago, like it was common for like if a kid was trying to pursue something creative, like the parent would be like, okay, don't be ridiculous.
Right.
But our generation, like all of our parents told us, you can do anything you want with your life. And I'm, you know, so grateful that like we had that experience to be able to pursue whatever we wanted. But at the same time, it puts so much pressure. It's like, okay, I got to do whatever I want, like, and I got to succeed at it.
Right. And I feel like it definitely, like, our parents and grandparents, like, all had, like, creative things they wanted to do, but took a practical job instead. And so, like, it also feels like, well, I get to do this, so I should make a job out of it type of thing.
Exactly. But at the same time, because they did that, you have no blueprint of how to do it.
Yes.
And also something that really upsets me, like it like genuinely like brings down my mood when I see it, is when I see like young people being successful. Like if you see someone like your age being successful, it's like, and we're still young. Like, and I know, because I know like I've been around tons of 30-year-olds who hate themselves because like they're 30 and they haven't gone anywhere. And like I know we're still young, and 30 is still really young also, by the way. But like we have all this time, but it's like, but then you see like a 19-year-old being successful at, like, I mean, it could just be as like a social media influencer,
Right.
But it could be as
But like they're making money.
They're making money, and they can probably use that to get them somewhere else in life.
Right.
And then sometimes it's not even like that. Sometimes it's like they are like singers or dancers, or sometimes they're like freaking like prodigies, and they're super smart.
Yes.
Okay, the entrepreneurs, the young entrepreneurs, they really get me, because it's like, how are you doing that? Like,
right.
And it's like everyone older than you wants to tell you have so much time, and I know I do, but it's like, but all these other people are already there, and it stresses me out.
And especially because I feel like both you and I are probably, I think we're pretty hard workers, but so it's like we're both we're working so hard, and so like how much harder do these kids have to be working?
That's something that really scares me, especially in, I'm so sorry for saying this all the time, but especially in my career path. Like, people always tell me, like, you're gonna have to work so hard, and on one end that doesn't scare me, because I'm like, I can work hard, like, I'm a hard worker, I can do that. But on the other end, I'm like, and I hate to say this, but it's like, I've already worked so hard, like, I'm scared, because I've like been through so much turmoil that like I know that I just have all that much more in front of me, and it's very scary. Back to the potential, or the failure. When you don't do something because you're afraid of failing, do you think it comes from you're afraid of other people seeing you failing, or do you think it comes from you're afraid of failing yourself?
I feel like it's probably like a mix of both. Like the other people failing, or like other people seeing me fail, but then that feels like a personal failure. Do you know what I mean? So like the fact that other people saw me fail is like a little bit of a failure.
Definitely. Yes.
But I don't know why I like feel like I need to put on this front that I'm perfect. Like,
yeah, 'cause everyone knows you're not.
It's pretty obvious.
That's how I kind of feel about this, like doing this podcast, or like I used to make YouTube videos as a like 11-year-old, which by the way, I need to show you.
Okay.
But I never posted them. Like, they always just, like stayed, like I just have a bunch of footage. It's not edited together, and they were never on YouTube. But I think like, you know, deep down, like I'm sure I was afraid of like classmates like seeing it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I was thinking then. But the point is, like, even just doing this, like having the idea to do this, I had flashbacks to that, and I was thinking about it, and it's like really vulnerable to put these, like, because I post about it on Instagram, and then all these people I've worked with, people I work with now, people I went to high school with, people I went to college with, people I met at summer camp in 2015, like literally any person that I am, like, I don't even think about the different types of people who follow me, like, are seeing this, and it's like, are they seeing this and they're thinking like, who does she think she is? Like, I mean, that's sometimes how I feel about it. And like where self-doubt comes in, where I'm like, what makes me someone who can talk about this?
Right.
You know? And that's why I like having these more casual conversations where it's just genuinely who I am and something I feel certified to talk about, failure, versus something that's a little bit more complex, because it's like, I'm just, because but anyways, like, I guess on one hand, I could be afraid that people are like judging me for that, or like, I don't know. But I think the reason I was able to feel confident enough to put it out there is because I didn't think of it as like, I don't think, oh, I'm going to start this podcast and I'm going to become a huge podcast star and that's how it'll be successful. Like, it really is just for me, and that's the only way I would be able to post them, is that I enjoy talking to people, and then I enjoy editing them and like watching them back, and then just existing. Like, if I think a lot of things I do that I am afraid that I end up not doing because I'm afraid of it, it's because I had this idea of something that it'll turn into. And I think maybe that's a good way to like address like fearing failure, is like, if you're just doing something for the intrinsic value of doing it, then you can't fail at it because you just do it and then you did it.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like again, now with social media, there's more of a sense of a fear of failure because anyone can see you do it, and you can see everyone else being successful. But like you said, they're not, like, it's all just what they want to put out there, you know, and it can look successful, but it's not.
And like, maybe even it like was like real success and they felt like so great about whatever this is they're posting about, but it's like they probably like woke up a few mornings later and they're like having the worst day of their life, you know, like, it, even if like in that moment it really was like super successful, there are other aspects to them other than that.
Yes. And also another thing that goes hand in hand with the like feeling like you need to be successful at a young age is I remember in my last relationship, which was my first relationship, it was like long for me because it was my first one, but I realized like I hope that he's not the one because then it's like I still have all this life left to live and like this was it, or like also like I don't know, like I just didn't want that. And I feel like that could go with your career too. It's like if you get it now, like what more do you have to look forward to,
right?
You know?
I really feel like I'm going to have like a second career. Like, I think I'm going to have the dance career and, you know, I'm going to ride that wave until it's over. And then I really like think that I'm going to end up doing something like completely unrelated to ballet.
Definitely. And that's a thing that I didn't understand. I may have brought this up in the other episode we did, but I saw this thing that completely changed my outlook, which is that your career is not a ladder. It's a jungle gym. So you don't like get better. And first of all, if it was a ladder, it wouldn't be exponential. It wouldn't like, it would one step forward, two steps back type of thing. But also it's like, it goes back to like thinking you know what you want and changing your mind. It's like, you may like go down the slide and you may enjoy going down the slide, but then you see the swings and you want to go on the swings. And I agree that I feel that way in the back of my mind too, where it's like, and I don't even think it'll be a second. I think it'll be like a handful. Like, like I'll find, especially with the job I'm working right now, it's a pottery job. I'm working a pottery factory, which I never would have seen myself doing.
Right.
And it's kind of a placeholder anyway, but like a lot of people that I work with are really into ceramics and pottery. They went to school for it. And I'm like interested in it, and I've been asking a lot of questions, and it's like fun and exciting to learn something new. But I have discovered, like, I'm not going to like become like a ceramics artist. Like, I don't want to do pottery, but it's been really fun working here, and like I think it'll be a fun thing to look back on, but it's not like where I want to be forever. And I feel like that's kind of helped me with an idea of being content with where I'm at right now in life, where it's like, this is just a fun little adventure I'm on right now, and then I'll do something else next time.
And it like doesn't have to lead to anything. Like,
exactly.
You can just have fun making pottery. Like, you don't need to, you know, keep getting better so that you can get the next job or whatever.
And yeah, and back to the getting success when you're young, it's like I could feel like I'm wasting my time. Like, oh, I'm not getting any experience in my field, but it's really, nothing is a waste of time.
Right. It's all just like adding to your life.
Exactly. And it's like giving me, experiences and memories. Well, I mean, it's not that great. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be honest with you.
Every day is a great memory.
But I remember when I was in high school, my friend who was older than me, so she was like 25 or 26, and I was like 17. She said, like, when you like graduate high school, like, you realize like adulthood is just like summer camp. Like, you just wake up and like it's like whatever. Like, and I understand that even with having a job, and maybe that's just because I worked like as a teenager and because I had so many jobs, but like work doesn't feel like the way school did, where it was like structured,
right?
And like it was just this like thing that I always had to be at. And maybe it's just because I also have more autonomy just as an adult.
And it's like in school you had to be there. Like, it wasn't really a choice, but like kind of where you work is your choice.
Yeah.
And so like if you hate it, why are you still showing up? Like, it's in your power to change what you do every day.
Exactly. And you might not be able to find like you might not be able to get your dream job, but you could get stuff. And I think there's value also in like the people you work with. Like, if you like the people you work with, like, it makes a terrible job a little bit better.
Right.
And you just kind of have to weigh that. I feel like, and that goes back to what you said about you've been trying to make a solid life outside of dance. I also feel like that comes with failure, with fearing failure. It's like, if your career is everything, then of course, if your career is your whole life, then obviously failing is gonna be the scariest thing ever.
Right. And it's like a bad day at your job is just like a bad day, period. Whereas like you can't turn it around because that's your whole life.
And I feel like that's just really prominent. I feel like, you know, growing up, like, based on all the movies and TV shows we watched, like, they always set, like, there was a lot of, like, actually, even though there's a lot of, like, sexist movies, I feel like there were a lot of, like, those movies that were empowering women, like, your relationship isn't everything, and like you can have a successful career, which I'm really glad for. But I feel like that has like acutely shaped me to where I look down on the idea of romance or just even friendly connection, because I'm like, no, my career is more important. I'm sure a lot of Americans relate to that.
Yes.
But one thing about being in a relationship, even when it wasn't at its good points, like when I felt like a failure at work, at least I knew that there's like someone on my side and someone that's going through life with me, and it'll be okay. And again, obviously, like I said in other episodes, I don't feel like that has to be a romantic partner. I think that can be a good group of friends or even just your family. But like in Japan, there's a really high suicide rate for old men, because once they retire, they feel like they have no other purpose. And so there's and it's funny because they probably had successful careers. Like, they probably didn't even necessarily fail. But just the fact that I guess I just want to tell what I'm pretending to tell everyone else, but I really want to tell myself, is that, like, you don't have to be productive to live, I want to say successful life, but I think success is probably the wrong thing to be focusing on and chasing.
And also just, like, with productivity, I feel like I have a hard time relaxing just because if I'm not doing anything, But I feel like I've been trying to find ways that, like, I am relaxing without relaxing, like, without doing nothing. So, like, going outside and reading a book, I feel like the act of going somewhere to read a book makes it feel like it's doing something. And I also just think, like, doing things for myself is productive.
Yes, and I have to remind myself that all the time. What I do is I schedule relaxing into my day. That way I feel like I am doing something. And that is just, I think, probably like the biggest thing I need to work on if I want to achieve any type of happiness. Because I like to read, and I'll do that too, but I can't feel like I'm doing anything productive unless I also take notes. So I'm like reading a book and taking a note. I do it with, like, I'll watch movies or YouTube videos and I'll be like, okay, I should just take notes. That way I have something tangible that I did. But the thing is, if I didn't schedule anything for me to do in a certain period of time, I am like, okay, what else can I do to be productive? Like, okay, I'll just go to the store now instead of going tomorrow. But then the problem is, then tomorrow when I'm supposed to be going to the store but I already went, I'll make myself think of something else productive to do. And it's not the way to live. And also, if I don't have something to do and I can't think of anything productive to do, I'll instead just sit doing actually nothing. Because if I was reading a book, at least I'd be doing something for myself. But instead, I'll just be so anxious about the fact that I'm not doing anything that I'll either just, like, lay on my bed being anxious, or I'll lay on my bed being anxious scrolling.
No, because that's, like, a big thing I want to, like, cancel out of my life, because I don't think there's anything wrong with some good healthy scrolling. Like, I think it can be fun at times, and, like, sometimes I find the funniest videos that, like, make me laugh so hard.
I love when I laugh at something out loud alone,
like, by myself. But I also think that, like, I use, like, going on my phone scrolling as a way to, like, prolong whatever making a decision about what I'm gonna do next, which sounds similar to what you're doing. And I, like, don't know how to kind of get rid of that part of my life.
Yeah, and I don't either. So if anyone has any tips,
please
let
help
us know. I feel like a lot of times when I have these conversations and I, like, want to explore a topic and offer some, like, advice to people or just some thoughts on it, I always just end up, like, having a therapy session or revealing a lot of things about, like. But the thing is I like listening to other people do that. So I feel like maybe someone will feel vindicated in listening to us talk about it, because we're so awesome and they look up to us and we feel this way too.
That's actually something I realized the other day. I realized that I was awesome. Like,
no, I'll realize that. And then the next week I'll realize that I suck.
Yeah. I was like, wow, I'm actually a really cool person.
And I feel like, back to imposter syndrome, sometimes I try and, like, convince myself, okay, if all of these people think that I'm this great and all of these people think that I'm this great, like, maybe I am this great, or maybe I am just that good at tricking them into thinking I'm great, and then it kind of makes it like I am great, possibly.
Right.
But with success, I think I have this false idea of destiny, kind of, that I don't consciously admit to, but, like, usually I use it as a coping mechanism, like, for when things do go wrong. I'm like, okay, well, this was meant to happen, I'm sure there's a reason why. But then I have this problem where I'm like, I'm destined to be successful, and that goes back to the potential thing where it's like, okay, like, I know that point,
but, like, how do I reach that?
Yeah, how do I get there? And again, it makes it feel like I'm at fault if I don't. And I really do think I think we all need to just, like, I don't know, I think, okay, so I was going to say that I think we all need to, like, set aside this idea of success, because success may bring you, like, some sort of gratification, but like you said, it's very temporary. And what you really need is, like, honestly, content, which it sounds like a low bar for life.
Right.
But I think once you like really get into life and start seeing how it plays out, like being content is enough.
Right. I will take being content.
But what I was going to say is that I was going to say that I used to, I feel like when you're younger they always or just in life and like you know, like those entrepreneur guys on Instagram that give you all those and self-help books, they always say that you need to have concrete goals. And I do think having a solid, if you have a goal, like it is kind of important to like think about that and create those solid goals in your life. But also I think that they can hold you back in some ways, because again, you can change your mind about what your goals are. But also it's like, I don't know, like people always say like, where do you want to be in 5 years?
Right.
And you can imagine this life for yourself, but are you going to be disappointed if you don't get that in 5 years?
Right. Or just like setting the goal. I feel like, at least for me, I feel like when you set like a specific goal and then you focus on that, and I feel like I would like put too much into it so that if it did end up failing, it would be, I mean, all of it wouldn't have been a waste. I definitely still would have gained things, but like,
you might still feel that way though. Like
right.
I just waste, and I felt that way so many times before. I guess we just need to, you know, if there are things you want to do in life, like go work towards them and like try and do them. But I think maybe the answer to this, and we're gonna solve this right here, right now, and this will be the end of it for the rest of time for everyone in the world.
We're never gonna be afraid of failure again.
And no one else is either. Is we need to separate like success in our career, that the idea of that, from our worth as a person. Because, you know, there has been times where I have been able to separate it in like if we were playing volleyball,
okay,
and I lost,
okay,
I am a bit competitive and a sore loser, but I can, now that I'm a little bit more mature, I can like accept, like, okay, like I lost, but it was fun. And I don't think I'm less of a person because I lost at it. Even if I gave it my all, even if I tried so hard at volleyball, like I know that I'm not less of a person. And maybe I should just think that about my career. Like if I don't get a job, like, yeah, it sucks and I really wanted it and now I'm gonna have to try for something else or try again or whatever. But I think the paralyzing anxiety just comes from the fact that I'm telling myself, okay, because I didn't get that job, I suck as a person.
Right. And that comment about the volleyball made me think of how, like, I'm so embarrassed to fail, which I kind of talked about earlier. But it's like, I'm not, like, I feel like I used to be a lot more embarrassed about who I was as a person. And like I said, I had a realization that I'm awesome. And so I feel like I'm not really embarrassed about like who I am, but I still get embarrassed by my failure, which I gotta work on that.
Interesting. I think that resonates with me, and I think it resonates with a lot of people. And you're right. I am like, I have reached a point of confidence in who I am, like deep down. And so, yeah, I guess I don't think and I guess another way we can trick our brains is like, I wouldn't think less of you if you didn't make it into the advanced, like I would still think you're a great ballerina. Right. So, and I think that's one of the best tricks in life for all sorts of things is think about how you would like feel if your best friend did what you did. You're not my best friend, but just imagine. Like, yeah, it's like one of those things about like talking to yourself with kindness and stuff. You know what? I think a great way I should start ending my episodes is like, one thing we're gonna do just today, but one thing I should do in general is talk about, so what did we learn about how to be busy being born? Like, just to recap. Yeah. I think separating your success in your career from your worth as a person. What else did we learn? Talk to yourself kindly.
Yes. Yes. Do some highs and lows at the end of your
Yes,
day.
which is what I want to do today. So, do we want to do our high and low of the day or our high and low of the week?
I feel like we should do of the day.
Okay, high and low of the day. So, do you have some or do you need a second?
I have my low.
Okay, you go ahead with your low and I'll think of.
I mean, I had a really tough day at ballet today, and it was just like I felt exhausted, and whenever I feel tired at ballet, I like can't work hard, so then
That is what sucks about like doing something physical like that. It's like, I mean, like you're obviously like your sleep does like contribute to your brain too, and like but like you can like go to work, you know, when you're tired, but it's like when you're doing something physical, it just makes you feel like you suck.
Yes, and it's like, and even if I want to really work hard, like I just want to take a nap. So that was my low today.
Okay, well my low today was that normally I have my smoothie bowl for lunch.
Yes.
But I had to have a struggle meal instead, which was literally a pickle. I had multiple of these, but a pickle and like sriracha wrapped in a piece of ham. And I did put pretzels, these like pretzel sticks in it for crunch. And I dipped it in this guac, which, by the way, all these parts, like homemade guac, like it didn't taste that bad. But, and then I had kimchi in it, and I wrapped it in seaweed. So I just basically combined a bunch of, like, random things.
You're getting all the food groups in there.
Yeah, because I was just, like, trying to use things up in the fridge, and, like, and it wasn't that bad. It didn't taste that bad, but it wasn't my smoothie bowl. I was embarrassed, and I ate it at work, at your work, my old work, and two people separately came up and roasted me for it, and I was already upset that I wasn't having my smoothie bowl, so that was my low. And then high for your high.
I feel like this is my high.
I was gonna also say that doing this was also my high, and also I did go into work and saw some people, and that's always a nice time to know that I'm loved and appreciated. Anyways, thank you so much for talking to me, Fiona, and thank you for getting busy being born with me, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Take my advice, or you'll curse the day you started rolling down that lost